Welcome. Welcome to the 19th IISS Shangri-La Dialogue. It is a delight for me personally and for our hosts, the Government of Singapore, to be convening this Asia Security Summit after a 2-year hiatus. Prime Minister Lee, the IISS is proud that we have again been able to bring together the national security establishments of so many different states here this weekend, and we thank you for your support and the hospitality that this country so warmly provides. The IISS has had 2 strong years since we last met here, growing by more than 25%, generating more data and analysis for governments and the private sector on geopolitical and geoeconomic trends. We are pleased to have established a major new IISS Europe office in Berlin, Germany, with staff drawn from a dozen different nationalities. I expect the IISS Asia, based here in Singapore, and IISS Europe in Berlin will have a good deal of intellectual exchange and practical cooperation. In both 2020 and 2021, we managed to hold in-person IISS Manama Dialogues in the Kingdom of Bahrain, where our Middle East office is headquartered, and we look forward to the 18th Manama Dialogue on 18 to 20 November this year. The strategic dynamic in the Indo-Pacific region has developed in ways that have naturally shaped our agenda for this weekend. The strategies of the US and China in this region remain central, as do the perspectives of Southeast Asian states on current geopolitical trends. The growth in number and importance of minilateral security arrangements in groups of 3, 4, or 5, plus or minus 1 or 2, is dazzling even the most astute observers of diplomatic practice. Military modernization continues apace. Exercises at sea and in the air often bring operators dangerously close to each other, as each stick to their national scripts on where freedom to operate begins or ends. The internal conflict in Myanmar has stressed the institution of ASEAN. Korean ICBM tests multiply. Technological competition accelerates. The challenges of climate change and the requirement for developing green defense doctrines are pressing and urgent. All these issues are treated in depth in the IISS Asia-Pacific Regional Security Assessment 2022, released this week. It is impossible, however, to pass by the fact that we convene as a major war is occurring and a geopolitical earthquake exploding in Europe that affects the globe. Russia's unprovoked and illegal war against Ukraine started as a war for regime change and occupation and has morphed into one of annihilation and destruction. The military tactics displayed by the Russians have little connection to sane political objectives. The Western response has moved from noting that Ukraine was not in NATO but would be supported, to the determination to provide defensive weapons but avoid escalation, to the view that Russia's strategic failure must be assured, to the position that Ukraine can and must win, to the assertion that Russia's conventional power must be so reduced that it can never threaten a neighbor again. Personally, I don't feel it necessary to underscore that NATO countries have no NATO Article 5 obligation to come to the defense of Ukraine. I prefer to emphasize that Ukraine has a UN Article 51 right of self-defense, and any other UN member state has the right under the same Article 51, on the request of the defending state, to give it all the military support it may seek for its self-defense and in the service of collective security. The only similar case arose in August 1990, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait with the clear intent fully to occupy it and with the possible subsequent ability to pose a direct threat to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Then, the Middle East security order was hugely at stake. Today, it is the European security order and the largest country in Europe that has been attacked. It was already attacked in 2014, This time, Mr. Putin has said that Ukraine is not a nation and has developed maximalist aims for his campaign. To use a phrase commonly heard in Asia, the European security order is a core interest of the West. It is essential for the West to prevail in this contest, for Russia strategically to fail, and for Ukraine to be able to dictate peace terms that can have the support of its people. To get there, it is essential to repeat that defense is not escalation. The paradox is that even though NATO has no formal obligation to Ukraine, the reputation of NATO is at least partly at stake in this war. That reputation has been strengthened by a broad show of unity and by the applications of Sweden and Finland to join. Germany has pledged an additional 100 billion euros to defense and has said it would move at pace to spend 2% of GDP on defense. It will still take some time for Germany to adapt its strategic culture to this cash infusion. As NATO moves towards its summit in Madrid later this month, the Russian war will require thinking afresh the principles of preemptive action, flexible response, escalation dominance, and intra-war deterrence that must underpin a revised NATO strategic concept. Given the nature of contemporary warfare, the relationship between Articles 4 and 5 of the NATO Treaty might also require reassessment. For many countries in Asia and the Middle East, this war has raised questions about their alignments and hedging strategies. It is natural that countries engage in strategic hedging. There are few truly cast-iron guarantees in security. Some independence and autonomy of action is preferred by most states. Strategic self-determination may mean that interests do not always align with the same security partner. It is better to have many friends than only a few. Multi-alignment has its attractions. But strategic hedging, rather like its financial equivalent, requires active portfolio management. Russia's strategic currency is now in free fall. It is perhaps not prudent to be too long Russia, again to use the financial markets term. Indeed, being overweight Russia right now, including for those countries that have traditionally had Russia as a major arms supplier, may prove costly in the medium and perhaps rather soon. Rebalancing might become necessary. What this war has additionally shown is that the Euro-Atlantic and wider Indo-Pacific strategic theaters are codependent. The largest importer of Ukrainian wheat is Egypt, the second largest Indonesia. The impact of this war in Europe is felt internationally. For North Americans and Europeans, who this weekend will be pledging their commitments to the Indo-Pacific region, success in Europe is vital to success in Asia. It is not simply a question of time commitment, but one of credibility. Put bluntly, how can one speak about helping to support a free and open Indo-Pacific when so far it has not proven possible to ensure a free and open Black Sea? Negotiations are unlikely to be enough. It will require some risk-taking to get the traffic moving again from the Black Sea to the rest of the world. We are proud that, considering the global impact of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, President Zelensky has agreed to speak to us from Kiev tomorrow at exactly 4 p.m. Singapore time, and I know that most of you assembled here will wish to be in this hall at that time. Against that background, it is a great honor to introduce the keynote speaker for the 19th Shangri-La Dialogue. We have someone who can speak with unique authority on the links between European and Asian security. Prime Minister Kishida of Japan became head of government having had a long period of success as Japan's foreign minister. He represents in the Diet a Hiroshima constituency whose history naturally shapes his appreciation of the horrors of nuclear war. Hiroshima will play host to the 2023 G7 summit that Japan will chair. As Prime Minister, he has developed his ideas on new capitalism and has been especially active on questions of international relations and strategy. He created a new cabinet position, Minister for Economic Security, which signaled the importance of economic statecraft in contemporary diplomacy, as well as the need to anticipate vulnerabilities caused by the various stresses on the global economic order. The Kishida administration will also be crafting a new national security strategy this year, the first update since 2013. Some in his party have suggested that Japan move toward the NATO standard of 2% of GDP expenditure on defense, a level that would put Japan as the third biggest defense spender in the world, behind only the US and China. Prime Minister Kishida, everyone in the audience and across the world will be fascinated to hear your thoughts on global security and Japan's contribution to it. It is an honor and a privilege to have you at the Shangri-La Dialogue. Prime Minister, the floor and this podium is yours.
リー・シェンロン首相、そしてジョン・チップマン所長、ご出席の皆様方、長い歴史と高い名声を誇るこのシャングリラ・ダイアローグの場で基調講演を行うこと、大変光栄に思っています。本日はここにお集まりの皆様と現下の国際社会が直面する厳しい状況について認識を共有するとともに、我々が目指すべき未来の姿について展望したいと思います。そうした議論を展開するのに、このシャングリラ・ダイアローグほどふさわしい場所はありません。まさにアジアは世界経済の 35% 近くを占め、拡大を続ける世界経済の中心であり、一体性と中心性を掲げる ASEAN を核に多様性と包摂性のある成長を続けているからです。今、ロシアによるウクライナ侵略により国際秩序の根幹が揺らぎ、国際社会は歴史の岐路に立っています。国際社会が前回大きな転換期を迎えたのは約30年前のことでした。世界が2つに分断され、両陣営の冷たい対立が再び熱を帯びてしまう可能性に人々が怯え続けた冷戦が終わりを告げ、冷戦後の時代が始まった頃でした。私のふるさと広島の先輩であり、私の属する政策集団宏池会の先輩リーダーである宮沢喜一元総理は、冷戦後の時代について日本の国会での演説で、新しい世界平和の秩序を構築する時代の始まりと認識したい、このように述べました。宮沢元総理は、我が国が安全保障分野で国際的に一層の役割を果たすことが求められている現実を直視し、大変な議論の末に PKO 協力法を成立させ、同法に基づき自衛隊をカンボジアに派遣しました。宮沢元総理の時代から約30年、今我々はどのような時代に生きているのでしょうか。パンデミックが起きて以降、世界は不確実性を一層増していきました。経済的な混乱が続く中、私たちは信頼できる安全なサプライチェーンの重要性を認識するようになりました。そして世界がパンデミックから立ち直ろうとしている最中、ロシアによるウクライナへの侵略が起きました。これは世界のいかなる国、地域においても決して対岸の火事ではありません。本日ここにお集まりのすべての方々、国々が 我がこととして受け止めるべき国際秩序の根幹を揺るがす事態です。南シナ海においてルールは果たして守られているでしょうか。長年にわたる対話と努力の末に皆が合意した国連海洋法条約をはじめとする国際法、そしてこの条約の下の仲裁裁判の判断が守られていません。そして我が国が位置する東シナ海でも国際法に従わず力を背景とした一方的な現状変更の試みが続いており、我が国は断固とした態度で立ち向かっています。この2つの海の間に位置する台湾海峡の平和と安定も極めて重要です。残念ながら人々の多様性や自由意志、人権を尊重しない動きもその多くがこれらの地域で起こっています。さらに北朝鮮は今年に入ってから新型 ICBM を含めかつてない頻度でかつ新たな対応での発射を繰り返すなど安保理決議に違反して核・ミサイル活動を強化しており、これは国際社会に対する明白かつ深刻な挑戦です。先日の安保理決議が拒否権により採択されなかったのは極めて残念です。私の政権が最重要課題としている北朝鮮による拉致問題も重大な人権侵害です。こうしたさまざまな問題の根本には、国際関係における普遍的なルールへの信頼が揺らいでいる状況があるのです。これが本質的かつ最も重大な問題です。我々が努力と対話と合意によって築き上げてきたルールに基づく国際秩序が守られ、平和と繁栄の歩みを継続できるか、あるいはルールは無視され、破られ、力による一方的な現状変更が堂々とまかり通る、強い国が弱い国を軍事的、経済的に威圧する、そんな弱肉強食の世界に戻ってしまうのか、それが我々が選択を迫られている現実です。世界第3位の経済大国であり、そしてこの地域で戦後一貫して平和と繁栄を追求し、経済面を中心に貢献してきた日本。
Contributions mainly in the economic field. Accordingly, the responsibility Japan must fulfill is heavy. With that understanding, what role should Japan play in realizing peace and prosperity as we face this crossroads in history? While focusing on universal values that everyone should respect and defend, we must firmly hold aloft the banner of our ideals for the future, such as a world without nuclear weapons, while also responding astutely and decisively as the situation demands. I am committed to realism diplomacy for a new era that adheres to this kind of thorough pragmatism. In the midst of all this, Japan will not lose its humility, flexibility in valuing diversity, or tolerance that respects the individuality of others. However, we will be more proactive than ever in tackling the challenges and crises that face Japan, Asia, and the world. Taking that perspective, in order to maintain and strengthen the peaceful order in this region, I will advance the Kishida vision for peace and boost Japan's diplomatic and security role in the region by promoting the following 5 pillars of initiatives. The first is maintaining and strengthening the rules-based, free and open international order. In particular, we will press forward in bringing new developments towards the free and open Indo-Pacific. The second is enhancing security. We will advance the fundamental reinforcement of Japan's defense capabilities in tandem with reinforcing the Japan-US alliance and strengthening our security cooperation with other like-minded countries. The third is promoting realistic efforts to bring about a world without nuclear weapons. The fourth is strengthening the functions of the United Nations, including UN Security Council reform. The fifth is strengthening international cooperation in new policy areas such as economic security. In order to bring peace to the international community, it is imperative that we first press forward in maintaining and strengthening the rules-based free and open international order. The rule of law serves as the foundation supporting this kind of international order. Alongside it are the peaceful resolution of disputes, the non-use of force, and respect for sovereignty. On the sea, it is freedom of navigation, and in the economy, free trade. Needless to say, respect for human rights is also critical, as is a democratic political system that reflects people's free will and diversity. These are common and universal principles developed by all people worldwide who, longing for world peace, have amassed collective wisdom. It goes without saying that the rules and principles I have just mentioned are also consistent with the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter. Rules must be respected. Even if they become inconvenient, one cannot be allowed to act as if they did not exist, nor can one be allowed to unilaterally change them. If one wants to change them, a new consensus must be made. Japan has been promoting a free and open Indo-Pacific with a view to maintaining and strengthening the rules-based free and open international order in this region. And the vision we have advocated has come to gain broad support in the international community. Japan has consistently and vigorously supported the ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific, which ASEAN has developed as its own basic policy. Looking around the world, a variety of actors, including the United States, Australia, India, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, and the European Union, have all laid out visions for the Indo-Pacific, sharing a common grand vision. Like-minded partners are each taking action on their own initiative, not at the behest of others. This is the very concept of a free and open Indo-Pacific, which is based on inclusiveness. The so-called FOIP concept. In particular, here in the Indo-Pacific region, collaboration with ASEAN is absolutely essential. After assuming the post of Prime Minister, I first visited Cambodia, which holds this year's ASEAN chairmanship. Later, I visited Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand. And today, I am here in Singapore. I have also held meetings with the leaders of ASEAN countries. The history of Japan and Southeast Asia is underpinned by a long history of goodwill and friendship. After the war, Japan supported the development of Southeast Asia.
我が国が未曾有の震災に見舞われたときに、その復興に手を差し伸べてくれました。今後も ASEAN 各国首脳との間で手を携えて、この地域の平和と繁栄を確保していくための方策について議論を深めていきたいと思っています。また、ASEAN 諸国と並んで太平洋の島国の皆さんも保育の実現のための大切なパートナーです。彼らの存立に関わる気候変動問題への対応をはじめとして持続可能で強靭な経済発展の基盤強化に貢献をいたします。日米豪が連携した海底ケーブル設置など近年の安全保障環境の変化に応じたタイムリーな支援を実施してきています。法の支配に基づく持続可能な海洋秩序の確保に向け、太平洋島諸国の皆さんと共に歩んでいきます。
A rules-based sustainable maritime order, cooperation based on the FOIP, or the Free and Open Indo-Pacific, is cooperation built upon long-standing trust. It is not limited to hardware, such as infrastructure construction, but instead also focuses on supporting the development of local human resources, promoting autonomous and inclusive development, and fostering industry through public and private initiatives as potential investment partners. We have also supported efforts to strengthen ASEAN's connectivity. It is also necessary for like-minded countries to work together to increase the investment of resources in this region. In addition to the ASEAN and Pacific Island countries that I mentioned earlier, Japan, Australia, India, and the United States, also known as the Quad, is playing an important role in promoting a free and open Indo-Pacific. At the recent Quad leaders meeting in Tokyo, we confirmed that the Quad will seek to extend more than $50 billion of further infrastructure assistance and investment in the Indo-Pacific over the next 5 years, which will be essential in promoting productivity and prosperity in this region. I will further accelerate these efforts. We intend to enhance existing free and open Indo-Pacific cooperation by beefing up our diplomatic efforts, including by expanding our ODA or official development assistance, while engaging in an optimized, efficient and strategic use of international cooperation through ODA. I will lay out a free and open Indo-Pacific plan for peace by next spring, which will strengthen Japan's efforts to further promote the vision of a free and open Indo-Pacific, with an emphasis on providing patrol vessels and enhancing maritime law enforcement capabilities, as well as cybersecurity, digital and green initiatives, and economic security. In recent years, Japan has particularly been strengthening its maritime security efforts while utilizing advanced technologies such as satellites, artificial intelligence, and unmanned aerial vehicles, and we will continue to share its knowledge and experience with other countries. From this perspective, over the next 3 years, we will make use of technical cooperation, training, and other means conducive to strengthening the maritime law enforcement capabilities of at least 20 countries to promote efforts to train at least 800 maritime security personnel and strengthen their human resources networks. In addition, we will provide at least approximately $2 billion in assistance, such as the provision of maritime security equipment, including patrol vessels, and development of maritime transportation infrastructure in the Pacific countries over the next 3 years. We will strengthen our support in the Pacific countries, utilizing cooperation of Quad and frameworks of international organizations. In addition, in order to maintain and strengthen the international order based on rules and universal values such as the rule of law, we will strengthen connections and networks among countries and peoples. To this end, we will train more than 1,500 personnel in the fields of the rule of law and governance over the next 3 years.
Second, I would like to talk about the role Japan should play in the realm of security. In light of Russia's aggression against Ukraine, countries' perceptions on security have drastically changed around the world. Germany has announced that it will shift its security policy and raise its defense budget to 2% of its GDP. Finland and Sweden, Russia's neighbors, have changed their historical policy of neutrality and announced they have applied for NATO membership. I myself have a strong sense of urgency that Ukraine today may be East Asia tomorrow. Japan has also made the decision to shift our policy towards Russia and is united with the international community in our efforts to impose strong sanctions against Russia and support Ukraine. As the Prime Minister of the peace-loving nation Japan, I have a responsibility to protect the lives and assets of the Japanese people and to contribute to a peaceful order in the region. I will seek to build a stable international order through dialogue, not confrontation. At the same time, however, we must be prepared for the emergence of an entity that tramples on the peace and security of other countries by force or threat without honoring the rules. As a means of preventing such situation and protecting ourselves, we need to enhance our deterrence and response capabilities. This will be absolutely essential if Japan is to learn to survive in the new era and keep speaking out as a standard bearer of peace. As the security environment surrounding Japan becomes increasingly severe, we will set out a new national security strategy by the end of this year. I am determined to fundamentally reinforce Japan's defense capabilities within the next 5 years and secure substantial increase of Japan's defense budget needed to effect such reinforcement. In doing so, we will not rule out any options, including the so-called counter-strike capabilities, and will realistically consider what is necessary to protect the lives and livelihoods of our people. To all of you, I stress that Japan's posture as a peace-loving nation will remain unchanged.
Друзья, коллеги, дамы и господа, мы с большим удовольствием принимаем господина Бердымухамедова, который находится в России со своим первым официальным зарубежным визитом в качестве президента Туркменистана. И прежде всего хотел бы вручить вам, уважаемый Сардар Гурбангулиевич, российскую государственную награду, орден Дружбы. Как сейчас во главе государства, так и до избрания на пост президента вы последовательно выступали и выступаете за развитие дружественных, по-настоящему тесных партнерских отношений с Россией. На различных государственных должностях лично участвовали в подготовке и реализации ряда совместных инициатив и важных соглашений. Будучи сопредседателем межправительственной российско-туркменской комиссии активно занимались практическими вопросами продвижения двусторонних торгово-экономических связей. Поздравляю вас с этой наградой и желаю вам дальнейших успехов на посту президента, на благо устойчивого и стабильного развития Туркменистана, обеспечения благополучия граждан вашей страны.
Указом президента Российской Федерации за большой вклад в укрепление
and technology transfer agreements with ASEAN countries and materialize specific cooperation projects according to their needs. Regarding reciprocal access agreements or RAAs, following the signing of an agreement with Australia in January, we have recently reached an agreement in principle with the United Kingdom. Japan will work closely with like-minded partners in Europe and Asia towards the conclusion of these agreements. In addition, in order to contribute to the realization of a free and open maritime order, Japan will dispatch a maritime self-defense force unit led by the destroyer Izumo to the Indo-Pacific region from June the 13th and conduct joint exercises with countries in the region, including Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Third, we will do our utmost towards achieving a world without nuclear weapons. Amid the crisis in Ukraine, the use of nuclear weapons by Russia is being discussed as a real possibility. We must not repeat the scourge of nuclear weapons. The threat of nuclear weapons, let alone the use of them, should never be tolerated. As the Prime Minister of the only country that has suffered the devastation of atomic bombings, I strongly appeal for this. The ramifications of Russia's threat to use nuclear weapons are not limited to the threat itself. The threat may have already caused serious damage to the nuclear non-proliferation regime. It may have already made it even more difficult for countries seeking to develop nuclear weapons to abandon their plans. Moves to develop and possess nuclear weapons might even spread further to other countries. These are among the various concerns that have been voiced. Even before the Ukraine crisis, North Korea frequently and repeatedly launched ballistic missiles, including ICBM-class missiles, and we have grave concerns that yet another nuclear test is imminent. The non-transparent buildup of military capacity, including nuclear arsenals that can be seen in the vicinity of Japan, has become a serious regional security concern. The return to compliance with the Iran nuclear agreement has not yet been realized. I must admit that the path to a world without nuclear weapons has become even more challenging. It is, however, precisely because of this extremely difficult situation that I, Prime Minister with roots in Hiroshima, where an atomic bomb was dropped, have decided to speak out, work tirelessly to reverse the current situation, and contribute to any scale of improvement towards achieving a world without nuclear weapons. There is no contradiction between ensuring Japan's national security while squarely facing the reality of the harsh security environment surrounding Japan, and at the same time, advancing towards the ideal of a world without nuclear weapons. Based on the relationship of trust we enjoy with the United States, our sole ally, Japan will present a roadmap that will take us from the reality to our ideal and press forward with realistic nuclear disarmament efforts. Greater transparency of nuclear forces is what underpins such efforts. It serves as the first step in supporting the irreversibility and verifiability of nuclear disarmament and in building trust among nuclear weapon states, as well as between nuclear weapon states and non-nuclear weapon states.
一部に不
mindful
透
of
明な
the
形で核戦
non-transparent
力
manner
の
in
増
which
強
some
を
countries
進め
have been
る動き
increasing
も見ら
their
れる
nuclear
中、
capabilities,
すべての核
we
兵器
call
国に
for
対
all
して
nuclear
核戦力
weapon
の
states
情報
to
開示を
disclose
求めてまいり
information
ます。
regarding their
ま
nuclear
た、
forces.
米中2国間で核軍
Together
縮、
with countries
軍備
concerned,
管
we
理
will
に関す
encourage
る
the
対
United
話を
States
行う
and
ことを
China
関係
to
各国ととも
engage
に
in bilateral
後押し
dialogue
して
on
ま
nuclear
いりたいと思い
disarmament
ます
and arms control.
さらに、最近忘れた感すらある
It is also
TVBT
key
包括
to
的
bring
核
back
実験禁止
discussions
条約
on the
ま
Comprehensive
た
Test Ban Treaty
FMCT
CTBT
核兵器用
and
核
Fissile
分
Material
裂性
Cutoff
物質
Treaty
生産禁止条
FMCT,
約
which have
こうした
recently
議論を
become nearly
今一度
forgotten.
呼び戻すことも重要です。国際的な核軍縮不拡散体制の礎石であ
More
る
than ever, we need to
NPT を
maintain
維持強
and
化していく
strengthen
こと
the
が
NPT,
今まで以
the
上に
very
求められていま
cornerstone
す。
of the international nuclear
核兵器国、
disarmament and
非核兵器国
non-proliferation
の双
regime.
方が
We
参
will
加す
do
る
everything
8
to
月の
ensure
NPT 運
that
用
the
検討会議が
NPT
意義あ
review
る成
conference
果
in
を収め
August, in
る
which
収め
both
るよ
nuclear weapon
う
states
全
and
力を尽く
non-nuclear
して
weapon states
まいり
will
ます。
participate,
核兵器の
achieve
使用
a
が
meaningful
まさに
outcome.
現実の問
With
題
the
となる
use of
中、
nuclear
核
weapons
兵器
now
の使
becoming a
用
real
がもたらす
possibility,
惨禍、
reminding
そ
the
の非
world
人
once
道
again
性を
about the
改めて
scourge and
世界に訴えてい
inhumanity
くこ
of
と
the
も
use of
重要
nuclear
です。
weapons is vital.
唯一の戦争
As
被
the
爆
only
国である
country to
日
have
本から
suffered the devastation of atomic
来たる
bombings,
核兵器の人
Japan
道
will
的影響
seize
に関する
every
会議を含め
opportunity,
あらゆる機
including
会を
the
捉
upcoming
えて
conference on
被
the
爆の実
humanitarian
相を世界
impact
に
of
発信
nuclear
してまいり
weapons
ます。
to convey the
さらに
stark
私
realities
が
of
外
atomic
相時代
bombings
に
to
設
the
置し
world.
た天神
Further,
会議の議
with a
論
view
を
to
発展さ
further
せ、
bolstering
国際
discussions
的な
taken
核
by
軍
the
縮
group
の
of
機運
eminent
を
persons for
もう一度
substantive
盛り上げるべ
advancement
く、
of nuclear
各国の
disarmament, which I
現
established
あるいは
when
元
I
政
served
治リ
as
ーダー
foreign
の関与
minister,
も得ながら
and to
核
rekindle
兵器
the
のない世界に
momentum
向
for
けた
international
国際
nuclear
賢人会
disarmament,
議を
we will
立ち上げ、
establish the international
本年
group of
中
eminent
を目標
persons
に
for a world
第
without
1回会
nuclear
合を
weapons.
広島で
This
開催を
group
いたします。
will enjoy the involvement
北朝
of
鮮について
incumbent
は
and former political
国連安
leaders
保理
of
決議
various
に従
countries,
っ
and
た
our plan is
北
to
朝
hold
鮮の
its first
完
meeting
全
in
な非
Hiroshima
核
this
化
year.
の実現
With
に向
regard
け
to North Korea,
日米
working
韓
towards the
で
complete
地域の
denuclearization of North
安全保
Korea
障
in accordance
国連
with
での
the
議
UN
論
Security Council
国際
resolutions,
的な取り組
Japan, the
みなど
United
で
States, and the
緊密に
Republic of
連携を
Korea
し
will work
国際社
closely
会と協
together
力し
in the
て取り組
areas
んで
of
まいりま
regional
す。
security,
こうした取り
deliberations
組み
at
を
the United
積み重
Nations,
ね
and diplomatic
核兵器の
efforts.
ない世界に
And
向け
Japan will
一
further
歩一
act
歩
in
近づける
cooperation
よう
with the
に
international
努力を
community
し
as
て
a whole.
まいります。
Through each and every
第四
concrete
に
effort, we
平
will
和の番
strive
人
to
たる
move step
国
by
連の
step
改革も
towards
待った
a world
私の
without
課題で
nuclear
す。
weapons. Fourth,
国
no
際
time
社
can
会
be lost
の
in
平和
reforming
と
the UN,
安全
which should
の
serve as
維
the
持
guardian
に
of
大き
peace.
な責任を持つ
Russia, a permanent
安保理の
member of the
常
UN
任理事
Security
国である
Council, a
ロ
body
シア
having
が
primary
国際秩序の
responsibility for
根幹を
maintaining
揺るが
international
す
peace
暴
and
挙に
security,
出たことに
has
より
engaged in an
国連は
outrageous
試
act
練の
that has
時を
shaken
迎えて
the
いま
very
す。
foundation of the
国連
international
を
order, causing
重視す
the
る
UN
日
to
本の
face a
立場
time
に
of trial.
変わりはありま
Japan's
せん。
stance of
私
attaching
自身
importance to
外
the
相時代
United
から
Nations
国
remains
連改革に
unchanged.
向け
Since my
積極
time
的
as
に
foreign
取り組んで
minister,
まいり
I
まし
have
た。
been actively
総
working
理就
towards the
任以
reform
降も
of the UN.
首脳外交
Now,
の機会も
having
活用して
assumed
各
office
国
as
の
Prime
リーダー
Minister,
との
I
間
have
で
taken
国連の
advantage
機
of
能強
summit
化に向
level
けた
diplomatic
方策につ
opportunities
い
to
て
hold
議
discussions
論を
with leaders
重
of
ね
various
てまいり
countries
ました。
on ways to strengthen the
各国
functions
の
of the
複
United
雑な利害
Nations.
が絡み合
UN
う改革
reform
は
is not
簡
an
単ではあり
easy
ませんが、
task, given the
日本は
complexity
平和
of the
国家とし
intertwined
て
interests of
国
various
連
countries. countries. Japan, as a peace-loving nation, will lead discussions to strengthen the functions of the United Nations, including the reform of the Security Council. Japan will join the UN Security Council starting next year, and in the Security Council too, we will work tirelessly. At the same time, we will also seek a way forward for global governance that responds to the new challenges in the international community. Finally, I would like to discuss international cooperation in new policy areas such as economic security. In the midst of an unprecedented pandemic, the vulnerabilities of the global supply chain have come to the fore. Exerting unjustifiable economic pressure on other countries to impose unilateral claims or intentionally disseminating disinformation can also never be accepted. The aggression against Ukraine has made us even more aware of the clear and urgent need to make our own economy more resilient, as it directly affects our everyday lives. Taking into account that the economy is directly linked to national security and that areas such as cybersecurity and digitalization are becoming increasingly important for national security, we will promote economic security initiatives to ensure the security of the nation and of people from an economic perspective. In Japan, to address this challenge, the Economic Security Promotion Legislation was enacted under my leadership. However, Japan cannot go at this alone. International cooperation is essential, including within frameworks of like-minded countries such as the G7. Japan and ASEAN have long been building multi-layered supply chains. It is crucial that our public and private sectors continue to invest in maintaining and strengthening these supply chains. To this end, Japan will support more than 100 supply chain resilience projects over the next 5 years. In addition, once a country's status in the international community, including its economic development, has been elevated, that country should not only enjoy the benefits, but more importantly, it should also fulfill the responsibilities and obligations commensurate with that status. Economic cooperation and financing must be characterized by transparency, and they should lead to the long-term welfare of the people of the recipient country. We will continue to promote economic cooperation based on the idea of human security, respecting the ownership of each country and the interests of its nationals. To achieve prosperity in these difficult times, ASEAN and the Indo-Pacific region must remain the growth engine of the world. Japan will contribute to building resilient nations that can overcome any great or difficult challenges they may face. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to contemplate our future. The vision I have shared with you today, the vision of a rules-based, free and open international order, is one in which we all work together. We will elevate a free and open Indo-Pacific to the next stage. I firmly believe that if we do so, a future of peace and prosperity will surely await us, a bright and glorious world full of hope where there is trust and empathy shared amongst us. Thank you for your kind attention.
Prime Minister, thank you very much for a speech rooted in principle, rich in policy innovation and full of practical suggestions. I think we have time for 2 or 3 questions before opening it up to dinner. Yes, I think Yuka Koshino, I see. If the microphone were to move at pace, there we go. All right.
Thank you, John, and thank you very much, Prime Minister, for your speech on Kishida's vision for peace. So, as you made in your speech, you have been embracing your party fraction's tradition of pursuing realism diplomacy, which in my observation is to respond flexibly, but at times also boldly, to the drastically changing strategic environment, such as normalizing relationship with China in 1972, and also dispatching self-defense force for the first time to PKO mission in 1992, as you mentioned. So, in your realism diplomacy for the new era, what does that realism diplomacy look like? What do you hope to achieve in your realism diplomacy towards China? Thank you.
Answer.
Thank you very much for the question. Now, Japan and China, the relationship between the two, the relationship between our two countries is important not only for Japan and China, but also for the region and the international community. It is important for the peace and prosperity of the international society as well. Now, between Japan and China, we assert and contend what needs to be contended, and we also strongly ask China to act responsibly and also to build a constructive and stable relationship, and we will cooperate in a shared issue and agenda. Both of us need to make efforts to build such a relationship. And we also had a telephone summit meeting between the two countries in October last year. And President Xi Jinping has also agreed that we need to work mutually to create a constructive and stable relationship. But because Japan and China are neighbors, and because we are neighbors, there are many issues. So we will be able to execute accountability and also to create a relationship based upon trust and confidence. And because Japan and China are neighbors, we do have difficult issues between us. But for the peace and prosperity of the whole international community, I would like to create a constructive and stable relationship between the two countries.
Thank you very much. And I think there was General Liu He from the PLA Academy of Military Sciences, though I think you've just stepped down from there, but still hold an affiliation with the PLA. General, the floor is yours. Standing up is a great technique to get a microphone towards you. Thank you very much. There you are.
我是中国人民解放军代表团的何雷中将。我首先感谢齐普曼博士给我这个提问的机会。
I'm Lieutenant General He Lei from PLA delegation. First of all, thank you, Dr. Chipman, for giving me the floor.
刚才听了岸田首相的主旨演讲，现在我提两个问题。第一个问题中日两国是隔海相望的近邻，分别是世界第二大、第三大经济体。中日两国的关系不仅关系到两国的和平稳定，而且对亚太地区甚至世界的和平稳定将产生重要的影响。
Just now I heard the speech by Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. Now I have two questions for you. The first is also about China-Japan relationship. China and Japan are close neighbors, separated by a narrow strip of water, and they are separately the second and third largest economies in the world. And I think China-Japan relationship is not only a matter to the peace and stability to the two countries, but also that of Asia-Pacific, even the world.
岸田首相上任不久，就迎来了中日建交50周年。我想请问在50周年即将到来的时候，岸田首相对于中日两国的外交关系有什么总体设想？也就是说要达到一个什么样的目标？怎样实现这个目标？
Not long after you assumed the current post, we are having the 50th anniversary of the normalization of China-Japan relationship. So my question is, what is your major vision for China and Japan relationship during your tenure? And what are your major goals? And what major measures would you take accordingly?
General, thank you very much. I think we've got enough there for the Prime Minister to work on. Prime Minister?
はい。ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much for the question.
日中関係、今おっしゃったように、
Japan-China
日本
relationship,
と日
as
中
you
関係は
have
日本と
pointed
中
out,
国双方にとって重
Japan-China
要であるだ
relationship
けではなく
is
して
not only important
世界の平和と
for
繁栄
the
に
two
大きな
countries,
影響をもたら
it
す
has a
大変
major
重要な二
impact
国間関係であると
to
思
the
ってい
peace
ま
and
す。
prosperity
だ
of
か
the
らこそ、
world. So it is an
隣国
important
であるがゆえに
bilateral
難
relationship.
しい問題は存在い
Furthermore,
た
so
します
because
が、
we are neighbors, there are
この
complex
両国
issues
関係
between
を
us. That's true.
建設的で
But
安定的な関係として
we want to
構
make
築必
this
要
a
がある。
constructive and
こうした
stable
思いを持
relationship.
ち、
And
習近
with
平国
that
家主
in
席とも
mind,
電話会談の
I've
中で
talked
一
over
致
the
をした
phone
こ
with
ういったこと
President
でありま
Xi
す。
Jinping, and we
ぜ
concurred
ひ
on that view.
こうした大切な二国関係を
This is an important
この
bilateral relationship.
安定させるためにも
And in order to stabilize
意思疎
this
通
extremely
対
important
話
bilateral
これは
relationship, we
重要であ
need
ると
to
思いま
enhance
す。
communication and
あら
dialogue.
ゆるレベルを通じ
At
て
all
対話
levels,
意思疎通を図ること
We
によっ
need to
て
promote
少しでも
dialogue and
信頼関係を
communication in
作ってい
order
く、こ
to
うした
step
努
by
力を
step build
私は
up
してい
a
きたいと思います
trust between us.
ぜ
That's
ひ
the kind of
様
effort
々
I
な
want to engage in.
関係者の皆さんにご協力をいた
So
だきたいと
I
思っています。
invite the support of all relevant actors. Thank
Prime
you.
Minister, thank you very much. You've given us a splendid presentation tonight. I think all of us look forward to hearing in the coming months and year more detail about your free and open Indo-Pacific plan for peace with its diverse elements of maritime, digital, green, and economic security. We all appreciated your call for adherence to the Non-Proliferation Treaty and your underlining the importance of economic security in this world that is struggling to hang on to the gains of globalization of the previous generations. We've enjoyed you hugely tonight. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.